everyone.
Good evening.
I would like to call to order the Bamberg County School District Board of Trustees meeting to order. Today's date is Monday, February 3rd, 2025. The time is 6:00 p.m. If we all may please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And if we may have a brief moment of silence. Thank you. And board members, you have in front of you, which is item number 3, approval of the agenda. You all have had an opportunity to receive and review the agenda prior to tonight's meeting. What is the pleasure of the board with regards to approval of the agenda?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, the motion carries. We are down to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes for January 6, 2025. Again, you've all had an opportunity to receive and review the meeting minutes prior to tonight's meeting. What is the pleasure of the board with regards to approval of those meeting minutes?
Madam Chairman? Yes, ma'am. I move that we approve the minutes taken during the January 6, 2025 school board meeting.
All right. Second. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, the motion carries. We are down to item number 5, which is school reports. And I will turn this over to Dr. Brown.
Yes, ma'am. And I think I pretty much got everything on the agenda tonight. So if it's okay with the board members versus standing up here for
Sure.
2 hours, and because I have so much stacked up in front of me, is it okay if I remain seated while I flip?
That is fine.
Thank you. All right, so good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Good evening to those listening and in attendance. First, you have your school reports from all of the principals. I won't sit here and read them word for word. You've had a chance to look over them. Pretty much each one of them contains what they usually contain: the current enrollment, discipline reports for since over the last month, and then academic achievement. We're kind of at a null right now in the midst of academic achievement because we're in the middle of or nearing the end of our winter MAP testing and Mastery Connect testing. So the principals will have more of that information coming at the next meeting. Couple of things I will highlight. First is Demarco Elementary School from Dr. Shannon Johnson. Parent-teacher conferences, just a reminder, and interim reports to be picked up Wednesday, February the 5th. Next, just highlighting from Ms. Patricia Moultrie-Goldsmith's report for Demarco Middle School. School Improvement Council meeting is February 25th. There's a Black History program scheduled for 10 a.m. on February the 25th at the elementary middle school gym. Parent-teacher conference date interim reports will be issued between 5 and 6:30 p.m. on February the 5th. And again, MAP testing is still going on. For Demarco High School from Dr. Deani Simmons. Of course, your enrollment's there. He talks briefly about the MAP testing still going on. The continuous improvement plan, if you recall, he presented that plan last month. It has been submitted to the State Department, and we are awaiting feedback and or approval. So that will be the next step. All right. Upcoming events, he listed those for you, but just reminding the public that his 2 interim reports will go home on February 5th. Parent conferences will be held on that same day between 5 and 6 p.m. Yes, ma'am.
May I please make a comment? I understand that the high school, Bamberg High School, received something from the AP Association.
Yes, and on the back of his presentation, if you'll look, it's dated January 16th. He received a letter. Dear principals, congratulations. Your school has earned the AP Computer Science Female Diversity Award for expanding young women's access to AP Computer Science class, Computer Science A, for the 23-24 school year. And just for the purposes of the public listing, I'll finish reading the letter if that's okay, because it is a distinguished honor. This honor acknowledges the amazing work your school is doing to close the female representation gap in computer science. Research shows that female students who take AP Computer Science are more likely to major in computer science in college compared to female students of similar backgrounds and academic preparation. You can visit collegeboard.org at research-2011-6 to learn more. Your leadership in creating more equitable access to computer science courses is helping prepare more young women for the high-paying, in-demand jobs of the future and giving them the opportunities to solve some of society's greatest challenges. Your school is one of only 237 institutions to be recognized for their work towards improving gender representation during the 23-24 school year for AP Computer Science A. We also want to recognize the following AP Computer Science teachers for contributing to this great achievement. John Green. The AP program recently sent you an email about award badges to feature on your school's website, as well as sample press release templates and sample social media posts that you can use to share your accomplishment. Thank you for your commitment to expanding access to computer science education. Sincerely, Trevor Packer, head of the Advanced Placement Program. So congratulations to Dr. Simmons and the Denmark-Ola High School staff, and Mr. Green for that distinguished recognition. Next is Richard Carroll Elementary School from Ms. Mandy Edwards. Just a few highlights of upcoming events down at the bottom. The PTO Valentine's Dance will be from 5 to 8:30 on February the 8th. Interim progress reports will go home on February 13th. The Gifted and Talented testing is February 24th, and the School Improvement Council PTO meetings also scheduled for February 24th. Bamberg Middle School from Mrs. Denise Miller highlights the celebrations. She's attached her second second quarter honor roll. I would like to recognize all the 7th and 8th grade students making either the A honor roll or the AB honor roll. As you can see, a number of students achieving academic success there. Also, upcoming events. February 11th, progress reports will be issued. Open houses from 5 to 7 on the same day, February 11th, and the School Improvement Council meetings from 7:30 a.m. to 8:15 a.m. on February 28th. And lastly, but not least, Bamberg High School from Mr. Jordan Smith, principal. Looking down at the bottom, Mastery Connect benchmark testing will be February 4th and 5th of this week. Several students made perfect scores on their fall end-of-course exams. These students will be formally recognized when he returns to the board meeting in April. And that's a phenomenal achievement, not an easy task. The Garnet Black Academics Awards Banquet was held January 30th. I want to say there too, 126 students were recognized for their achievements at Bamberg High School. So that concludes the principal's reports, and if you have any other questions, they have included at your request their contact information at the top of their reports, but also you can go to any one of their school websites and their email addresses are available for you to email them and ask them any other questions you may have.
Okay.
Dr. Brown,
Yes, sir.
I think it would be really great if we could invite these students to the board meeting, the April board meeting, to be recognized, the ones that made 100. That's it.
I think that's, I know he's planning something special,
Okay.
but I
That would
think
be
that that's
awesome.
where he's heading. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, sure, sounds great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Moving down to item number 6 on the agenda, which is athletic report. And again, I'll turn that over to Dr. Brown.
So, when Mr. Williams presented the athletic report to Ms. Moody, several things changed over the last couple of days. So I have an update. I'm just going to read, you have his athletic report in your packet, but he sent me some updates in red that I'm just going to read for your benefit. Denmark and Bamberg boys and girls won Friday night. Denmark, and talking about basketball, Denmark-Ola remains first in the region, while Bamberg remains second in both boys and girls basketball. So, hold on to your hats, folks. It's going to be an interesting finish of the season. In wrestling, Bamberg Earhart High School's wrestling team made it to the second round of playoffs, but was eliminated sadly. They still have individuals who have qualifying coming up February 15th, and should any of those individuals make the qualifying rounds, state championships for individual wrestlers will be held on February 22nd. Okay. And that concludes the athletic report.
All right, we'll move down to item number 7, which is student, staff, recognition, and superintendent's report.
Okay. So, I'm sure that everyone's heard about the Power School breach. If you didn't, I don't know. But it's been everywhere. Yes, there was a Power School breach. I would like to say to all of the board members, I was kind of touching base with Mrs. Walker throughout this whole event, along with Ms. Tucker, and Mr. Paget is in constant contact with Power School. I am in constant contact with the State Department of Education. I do want to say, for all those listening and here tonight, this is nothing that the district did or the State Department of Education. Power School is a world-renowned company. It manages school districts all across the nation and in other countries of this world. So this was a Power School breach. In December, Power School realized that there was an unauthorized sign-on into an account. They immediately locked down access, notified the State Department of Education and the states who were affected, and then the State Department, along with Power School, started notifying the districts. So we have followed all of the protocols that we have to follow when such a breach occurs. We notify the appropriate law, well, actually Power School had already done it, and so did the State Department of Ed, notifying the Attorney General's office, SLED, our local or other law enforcements that deal with that, agencies, and then becomes the process of notifying the individuals. We were supplied letters by the State Department to send out to all faculty and staff and current students and families. That has been done, and Power School now is beginning the process of notifying individuals directly affected and letting them know about the next steps. For instance, 2 years of free credit monitoring is going to be offered to all individuals, so they're sending those letters out to everyone as well. And within the next day or two, Mr. Paget will be putting up new form letters that we just received yesterday evening with that information in those as well. So we're following our protocols. Just wanted everyone to be reassured that when these things happen, we do have protocols that we do follow. Okay? And so does the State Department. And they lead it, and I will say, thanks to Superintendent Weaver and her staff, they have been working on this diligently and working hand in hand with districts and walking us through every step of this process. Okay. I would like to say that I'm pleased to share tonight that the Meeting Street Scholarship Fund visited BEHS on Friday to make a special announcement for both Bamberg Earhart High School students and Denmark-Ola High School students. Bamberg County is now one of 14 school districts that will be included in the scholarship selection process for students' eligibility to receive the Meeting Street Scholarship. This is a phenomenal opportunity for our students. Last week, I want to thank Mr. John Huber McNeely. He coordinated with Mr. Smith and Dr. Simmons. I want to thank them as well to put on an announcement for the community and for our students. We brought all of our students together. I want to thank all the community members that were able to attend that. Mr. McNally explained to our students what that entails, how they can apply, and the 5 selection criteria to be eligible for those scholarships. And like I said, it is substantial. Basically, if you're in the top 30 of your class, if you meet the cut score on either ACT or SAT, if you qualify for Life Scholarship and a Pell Grant, you're eligible for the scholarship. So if you can check all those boxes, and from what I understand, the monetary scholarship is pretty substantial. It matches dollar for dollar the Life Scholarship. So as you all might know from personal experience or just your own research, you know, sometimes students get a scholarship, but it's still not affordable for them to go to college because the scholarship doesn't cover all the cost. There's more than just tuition. There's books, there's housing, there's food. So sometimes students have to choose between going to college or not, even with a scholarship. So this opportunity should make this opportunity available to more of our students in Bamberg County. So we're so grateful to be part of 14 school districts, 14 counties now participating in this endeavor. I would also like to thank Superintendent Ellen Weaver for personally coming down and attending that event Friday. It was a great kickoff. Our students enjoyed it. These individuals took the time to talk with our students after the brief presentation and explanation and announcement was made, and even met one-on-one with some of them. So very proud for the opportunity that's being made available to our students. Just wanted to remind all the board members that you have your ethics report that you need to do by March 15, 2025. And as promised, Ms. Moody has now touched base with the photographer who has given us a possible date to come and do your headshots, February 21st here at the district office. If you have a problem with that date, just let Ms. Moody know, and she can possibly check with the photographer. She can reach out to you all with more details about the time for everybody. If they do it the way they did it last time, everyone had a different time. Like you might be at 1, you might be at 1:30.
That's the South Carolina School Board Association conference.
That's the conference that
In Rosedale.
Okay, well, we'll scrap that date and we'll go back to the photographer.
I can email y'all some new dates, so that works.
And then the last thing in your packets, I always do, I'm sharing with you, student enrollment. And for the first time this year, we've dipped below 1,800 if you look at the enrollment. However, what's contributing that, in addition to a few students moving out of the district, is that it's good news because we had 8 winter graduates. So once you graduate in December, we call them early graduates, you come off the enrollment. So, but that's a good reason to see enrollment decrease. And many of these early graduates left early because they went ahead to their college. Some had athletic scholarships, some had academic scholarships. They wanted to get a head start. The athletic scholarship recipients wanted to get in spring practice. And we had two I think, had full-time jobs waiting on them.
Oh, wow.
So,
Great. Okay.
and that concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay. We are down to item number 8, which is discussion of local board waiver for weather-related school closures.
Okay. Y'all ready for this? All right. So I'm gonna ask Jessica to pass out something. Didn't want to send it home in a packet before I have a chance to explain what it was. So this, what she's handing out, what's coming around to you, is just a little spreadsheet that I and the district office staff that we have to keep up. Anytime you change your school day or close your school, we have to keep up with that, and that's reported to the State Department, the date, the reason, all the things. So just giving you a copy of this spreadsheet.
No, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
So the spreadsheet, everybody got it?
Mhm.
Take one or pass them down?
I was reviewing something, I'm so sorry. There you go.
We were so hoping and praying we wouldn't have to have this discussion, but here we are. Days missed due to inclement weather. So I'm going to explain the little spreadsheet to you first, and then we'll take a look at the calendar, because the board's I'm going to have to ask for board action tonight on this, all right? So what you have on the little table or screenshot of the spreadsheet are all the days where we've had to make an adjustment to the day due to inclement weather. So just for the purpose of public listening, we're going to go back it all the way up to the first week of school. Very first week of school, we missed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, August 6th, 7th, and 8th, whole days due to Hurricane Debby. Okay? We also had a delayed start on Friday, August 9th, but we are not required to make up delayed starts. So we have to make up August 6th, 7th, and 8th. We have already made up August the 6th and August the 7th. We made those up because we took away, the board voted to take away fall break and make those days up on October 10th and October the 11th. Okay? So in the first columns, the days we were out. In the last columns are notes of what we did or what we need to do. Does that make a little more sense? All right. So then we get to Friday, September the 13th. And this is something I want to say publicly so that all board members, all in attendance, and all listening understand. The State Department allows 5 and only 5 e-learning days in one school year. Once you utilize those 5, you're done with e-learning. Everybody still with me? So if you noticed, I put all of our e-learning days that we have used thus far in bold print in the second column. We used e-learning day 1 on Friday, September 13th. It was a water main break, closed some of our schools. We used e-learning day 2 on Thursday, November the 7th, due to flooding where the river was cresting. Again on Friday, November the 8th, e-learning day number 3. We used e-learning day number 4 on Wednesday, January 22nd. That was the snow and ice. And Thursday, January 23rd was our 5th and final e-learning day. Okay. On January the 10th, we were out due to sleet and ice and rain. This is what I want y'all to pay attention to now. It is the dates in red, because this is what we want to talk about tonight. We still had to make up August the 8th, and then come January the 10th, when the sleet and the ice came that morning, and we had to release. We did not make it to 10 o'clock, so it couldn't count for a day. So we got to make that day up. In talking directly with Superintendent Weaver's office and Dr. Matthew Ferguson in her office, we were advised that we still had 2 instructional days on our calendar that were to be intercession days. They're still instructional days, to turn those in to attendance days for all students, because at this point we've missed a significant number of days, and really it's intercession for all students. Upon getting that State Department advisement, I then called Mrs. Walker. Mrs. Walker and I agreed we need to follow that advisement. Well, one, it's State Department advisement. and then go ahead and let parents, faculty, staff, and students know that we would be making up Thursday, August 8th, and Friday, January 10th, using our intersession days that were on the calendars, February 20th and 21st for those 2 days. That is a required makeup day for students and a required work makeup day for staff. Okay? And we thought we would be done with it at that point. But we didn't. We weren't. Fast forward to Friday, January 24th. There was still snow and ice on too many of our roads to safely run the buses. Therefore, we had to call it a school closure because we were done with e-learning days. So this is the day that I'm asking the board tonight. Now you pick up your calendar. And I need board to take action on making up this day or not. The board has 2 choices that you can decide. If you recall from previous board meeting where you voted to waive days, it is state statute that the local board can waive up to 3 days. You voted to waive 2 at that time. So there's a 3rd day that can be waived. Or the board can vote to make the day up. If you choose to vote to make up the day, I'm asking the board to please look at our school calendar and decide on the day that it would be made up. Now, I do want to make one note. If you look at our calendar, we have 1 inclement weather day designated on your calendar, which is Good Friday. In speaking directly with the State Department of Education, in the same conversation where we had about the other makeup days, it is their advisement that we make up days as soon as possible. And I agree with that because we still got all of February, March. We've got a significant amount of time between now and Good Friday where we might need Good Friday for another day. Heaven forbid we're out another day for another reason. So with that being said, the only other days that we have out of school that can be used, unless I'm missing something, you cannot use President's Day, but you could use one of the winter break days of February the 18th or the 19th. The early release day that we have for PD, you cannot use those because it has to be a full attendance day. And of course, early release is only half a day, or Good Friday. Or you tack it on to the end of the school year, which the State Department nor I suggest that we do. So with that, I will turn it over to Mrs. Walker for the board to review, discuss, and decide.
Dr. Bryan, I have one question for you.
Yes, sir.
You know, there's a bill in the legislature now that's looking to give days from Hurricane Helene.
Yes, sir.
If that bill passes, these 2 days that were waived by the board, do we get those days back to waive or not?
I don't know. I would have to ask Ms. Weaver for direction on how to do that.
I know that there's a certain number of days that the board can waive. And then, of course,
The
the legislature can do it also.
Correct.
But I'm wondering if we can retroactively waive other days if there's a statute that.
And possibly get those back and then
Get
use
those
that
back.
board action to waive this day, this additional day that we need to waive? Is that where you, is that where you're
Yes, that's
going?
what
Yes.
I'm asking.
So that would be a question that I would have to get advisement on from the State Department, if it does pass.
Yes.
Well, if it does pass, I would be surprised if they make it retroactive. But, you know, you never know how they will do it.
They have waived days in the past, I think.
Yeah. But the question is whether or not, if the bill passes, would they go back and waive days retroactively? All right, well, we could start, we'll start here, Ms. Bunch, and we'll just kind of go around. You guys can feel free to take a look at the calendar for a moment, or if you already have taken in the information and share your thoughts. So we will be looking at either a waiver or a makeup. We're looking at February 18th or 19th as a possible makeup day. And we would be looking at, let's see here. The other day, the 18th of April,
Yes, ma'am.
okay?
So, I look, I think there are a lot of pros and cons to both, obviously. I think that waiving the third day should not be our first option. I think our first option should be to look at the calendar personally and see where we can make it up. I'm concerned that even if we get these 2 days back retroactively, our students are still missing school, whether they're waived, however they're waived. And I don't think students missing school is going to lend to academic achievement. So I think that should be a last resort option. I hear what Dr. Brown says in terms of not only saving the 18th, but that's also quite a ways away. So if we were to make up the day, I feel like the 18th would be too far. So I would, with those initial thoughts, I would feel like making it up probably the 19th would be a reasonable option.
Okay. Mr. Porter?
Well, I'm looking at the calendar. Now, there's a professional development day on March 17th. And what you could do, make that day up, and then do the professional development day in June.
One thing I want to say about that. So, I know y'all are all familiar with the required Read to Succeed training, science of reading training that is being mandated by the State Department. On that day,
Exactly.
we have a PD plan with a significant number of staff that has to attend that training. So just keep that in mind. I mean, we could do it, we could possibly work with those folks and reschedule all that, but it is
Well, no,
a,
I wouldn't want you to reschedule something like that, no. That's
You
more-
understand, and
Yes,
don't you,
that's
Mr.
more of a
Gordon?
nightmare than.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I understand completely. I would think we would probably need to go with the 19th of February.
Bamberg?
That's my thought also, the 19th, since we're using the 20th and 21st, so
Yep.
just use the 19th.
I would agree.
I would agree as well that we would do the 19th.
I'm also in agreement, the 19th.
Okay, I'm sorry, for some reason I thought we had voted to do a makeup day on April 19th, or 18th rather. And now I guess one of those, that day has been changed either the 20th or the 21st, is that right?
The 18th was going to be an inclement weather day. Well, I'm sorry, Ms. Hurst, let me go back. Yes, originally, you're correct.
One time we voted. for
Yes,
that.
yes, ma'am. At one point, we were talking about utilizing the 18th for a makeup day.
This is in April.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. However, after talking with the State Department, they said it makes more sense to go ahead and use your 2 intercession days to make up your your oldest 2 days that you need to make up. So those got changed, which left the 18th open again
Okay.
to be used for inclement weather day that we were hoping we would meet. But
I also think that it would be best to do it on February 19th. That would still be a 4-day week. I don't think it's wise to wait, not this year.
So, that's the position of the board. If you guys want to put that in the form of a motion, I'll entertain that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion that we make up the inclement weather day on February 19th, 2025.
All right. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, the motion carries. That's what we will do.
And we will all hope we don't have any more school closures this year, for any reason. But if we do, please understand, and for the public to please understand, this will come back before the board again. Because we, like I said, we have no more e-learning days to use.
Has it stated something that's spoken about waiving any of the mistakes that we've had so many this year?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, because I believe from this thing that we received in November, the State Department does have the ability to waive.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Porter was talking about, the legislation. There is a bill being proposed right now to possibly waive. We haven't been notified that it has passed yet. Typically, when those pass, we'll get a memo, a formal memo letting us know it's passed into abide by. All right,
Okay, so we are down to item number 9.
okay. So as you guys might recall, a couple of months ago, the board took action on whether or not to move 6th grade from Richard Carroll Elementary School to BE Middle School. And the board voted for us to issue an RFP for architectural and cost. That is the first step in such a move, and I was charged with bringing updates back to the board, which I will do throughout this entire process. So here we are, the first update. My, how things can change. So Devon issued the RFP. She opened them on the days that the bidding closed at the assigned time. She and our team, and upon opening the bids, what you've been handed is a list of all the companies that submitted a bid. I want to explain something to you. The offers are in the first column. The third column, the column down the center where the check marks are, is what they issued a bid for, although the RFP called for both of these things listed. If they only submitted for one, then
Got
you
it.
just, then they really didn't meet the requirements of the RFP. And then the price is there for you, and Yvonne has included comments. So, wanted to be fully transparent to the board, let you know every bid that was submitted for architecture and completion. And we were hoping, as you may recall in a former discussion, we had some facilities monies available that we could use towards this addition. It is, I think it was around $3 million, around that amount. Ron, if I misspeak, you can jump in. However, as you can see, the lowest bid was $4,054, and it went up to $8,754,837. So, needless to say, we don't have the money in our facilities budget for this, for adding a wing at this time. So I bring this back to the board tonight, one, for the update, two, so you can see all the bids, what's driving this update, and three, for the board to consider, review this information, and take further action if the board so chooses to do so. Like I said, we don't have the money currently, so this process can halt. Board could vote to table it indefinitely, or to table it till next year, or the following year to see where the facilities monies are at that time. Or the board could vote to proceed with moving 6th grade and if you remember back when we first had this discussion, we had gotten quotes on modular units. The question might be, well, what can we afford at this time if the board decides to proceed with this effort? And that would revert back to the modular units. Devon did get a quote. If you recall, it was 6 classrooms and restrooms. We did get the gentleman to come back and revise the quote a little bit and redo the drawing. Ms. Miller did ask for an office to be in there so that she could have an adult personnel supervising these students at all times in a mobile unit. If that's the decision that the board goes with, it is a good idea. And also to put supply closets and janitorial custodian closets in that modular unit as well. So with that being said, he once again supplied pictures of what they would look like. And on the very last page is the money. So again, portables to purchase the building, he listed out what it would cost to lease it again. To purchase it is $598,000, but then right below that dark line, you have to add in all the additional costs for delivery and setup if you were to purchase and add the ADA decking and ramps. So you would be adding another $100,000 to that. So you'd be looking at just under $1 million to go with modular units if you choose to proceed with this, versus the lowest bid we got was over $4 million to add a wing. So with that now, I'll turn this back over to the board. I do want to say that Devon and I had a meeting last week with a State Department of Education recognized company called ABL. What they do is help districts do energy assessments, and they can sometimes help districts secure funding if they can come out and assess our facilities and what we want to do and determine that the district can save in the long term. They can help the district to secure funding for a project based on the energy savings. They're scheduled to come out tomorrow morning. Thought it wouldn't hurt. Come get them to assess, where can we save energy cost, and can that assist in this project? Once they come out, they will get back with me and Devon and say, we can't help y'all at all, or we believe we can help you and this is how it can be done. So the board can choose to take action tonight or absorb the information that we provided you with tonight and get that information back from that company as well and take action at a later date if you so choose.
So what would we do if we did not go with, obviously, these bids that exceed our budget, and we don't want to spend $1 million or somewhere around $700,000, give or take $1, for modulars? We talk about the need for us to, basically, the elementary school, Richard Carroll Elementary School needs more room. What's the option at that point if we don't do anything? What are we gonna do about spacing?
Okay.
Or just thoughts?
Our thought would be to leave 6th grade where it is,
Okay.
and Ms. Edwards would have to get a whole lot more creative, like Ms. Hurst said, in adding classroom space. Because I want to be clear about something too. When we talked about this before, we talked about the rising student population, and yes, that's true, but we are not at capacity at Richard Carroll. I want to clarify that.
Right.
What it is capacity at Richard Carroll is based on the number of classrooms. In other words, that building was built to support 40 classrooms with 25-to-1. Is that right, Mr. Ulmer? You looked at the plan specifically, 25-to-1 student ratio per classroom. So we don't have 40 instructional classrooms over there right now. We're nearing that number. However, we do have other service areas, like the occupational therapy room takes up a whole classroom, or our ABL lab takes up a classroom. So moving sixth grade out of there would have freed up 4 to 5 other classrooms, should we be lucky enough to hire teachers for class size reduction, not because we're at capacity. Does that make a little bit better sense? But without that, sixth grade would stay put right where they are, and, you know, and I'm just gonna use this for an example. Miss Edwards might have to move an interventionist out of a classroom and put them somewhere else to do intervention, freeing up a classroom space, should she need it.
Does she have the capability to do that?
She does.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
What about, personally, I think I need time to digest this, but what about, rather than spending just under $1 million on modular system that, we don't really prefer, is it possible to just put 1 or 2 units at the elementary school? Is there space for that?
We don't need to do that.
Okay.
I don't recommend doing that.
Okay.
Can I give my?
Of course you can.
I'm all about advocating for the children. They're in a nice space right now. They're in a building. And it's never, if you can avoid it, it's never the optimal thing to do to move children into portables. I agree. I think you said it more eloquently than I did. So if you're not going to do it now, I think we wait to see what this company sends back with. Are there any other options for us to do it? And then the board absorb what I've given you here tonight, revisit it again next month, and possibly sit on that and relook at finances again later. And there's another,
Or table the issue all together.
correct,
Okay.
and then you can always bring it back up
Right.
later. Because there's a whole nother issue that's part of this, that we did not anticipate.
The floor.
Because we don't even have the $3 million anymore that we thought we had.
Okay.
Another unexpected expense has come up that we did not anticipate. That is the Denmark-Guller High School gym floor. We started having severe issues with the floor buckling. It became unsafe to have PE classes or to have basketball practice or games in there. Those of you that's been coming to our games know that we've been sharing with Voorhees and or Denmark Tech. In fact, they're playing tonight at Denmark Tech Middle School game. But, so Devon had our SCISBIT, which is our insurance board's trust, to come in and look at it. We had engineers come in. You had to rip up the floor to see what was underneath the floor that was causing the buckling. So there is no gym floor in that high school gym right now for these structural engineers to come inspect these and our insurance trust board representatives come in and inspect. Insurance is not going to pay for it. So the district has to put that floor back in that gym. So the facilities monies that we thought, that the dollar amount that we thought we would have now, that's going to have to come out of that to replace that floor.
Isn't that a relatively new gym floor? Was that part of the construction?
It was, yes, sir, it was. When they built the new addition onto the back of the school, and they built that gym on, yes, sir.
So the gym floor is 4 or 5
How many
years
years,
old?
Devon?
All right, so the gym floor is 5 years old? 5 years old. That was kind of a, in-kind thing that they did for Denmark. The problem is, I don't know if you went to that campus before the remodel, but if you drive up now, there's a brick wall that is built outside the gym. It's there to hide the air conditioning units, and so according to our engineer report, that is part of our problem, because that was built above the floor. So, and they closed up, Rick will have to help me, they closed up the weep holes. So the water has nowhere to go but back into the building. So we have 2 problems. We have the gym floor that has to be replaced, but before we can replace the floor, we have to fix the outside problem as well.
Right, okay.
So with that being said, we start prioritizing monies that we do have. And now, for obvious reasons, that's a priority for us right now, is to get that gym floor back in. Get it repaired, get it replaced, and get it back operable and habitable for our students, and that becomes a priority, which lends us even less money than what we thought we had.
So the 3 million that we have is being dwindled away to deal with that issue. We thought we would be able to use it for this. That's not gonna happen. I think it's still a good idea to have them come in to see if there's anything we can do about saving energy, and I'm talking about just in general, period, not for this project, just in general. I would be inclined, and if any board member thinks differently, you know, please feel free to speak up, but I would be inclined to table this indefinitely, and because we can always bring it back up at any other time. I don't necessarily want to continue to revisit something like to table this, to revisit to next month to get that information. It goes beyond that. We still don't have the money to do it, so
Correct.
why table it to next month? Table it indefinitely, and if some miracle happens that, you know, we're able to find some money or grant or something like that, we can always bring it back to the board and talk about it then. You guys are okay with that? Yep, okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so, go ahead.
I'm okay with that. I just had a question. When does the board, well, I'll ask this in our budget, never mind. I'll get to it in the budget, trying to figure out some things about when we might figure out where the money could come from, but that would be
Yeah,
at a budget meeting.
mhm.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that.
So unless somebody got trees, you got some trees in the backyard? Yes, Miss Cynthia, your mind is going, so,
Well, I just,
yes.
to me, it became, even though I didn't like the way it was presented, as you know, but I'm sorry, but there is undoubtedly the need to plan for this at some point in time.
Mhm,
I feel that we all agree on that.
mhm.
So, in my house, if you table it, it gets totally lost. So I'm just concerned that we don't bury this need to really keep on thinking about making this move.
Well,
So,
these are some options. We don't, even if we table it, we could table it for 90 days, we could table it for 6 months. This board, prior to the newly elected, we have never lost anything. We know, let me tell you why. We know that that need is going to occur. So if we were to hypothetically lose it, which we won't, but if we were, we would be forced to address it regardless. So if you know, if it would make you feel comfortable and the board was comfortable with it, we could table it for 6 months, we could table it for whatever length of time or indefinitely, but you know, we know that we're going to at some point have to address that, but we know that now is not the time.
And going back to why we were moving to sixth grade, it wasn't just because of space. The sixth grade in past years was already at the middle school.
Mhm.
And it's just a better fit.
It is.
Middle school is just a better fit for
Of
sixth
course.
grade.
It is.
I've seen it at the elementary school, and I talked with them at the middle school,
Mhm.
and there's no comparison. So
Okay.
we won't forget about it.
Well, I know we won't forget about it. That's what we have them for, to help remind us. But
I
that-
do
that-
like the idea though of going back in a few months, whatever, because now we have to be concerned about the gym floor.
And that's a priority. That's
Oh, yeah,
that's something that is in the
That's
making
what-
now that we're
so
dealing with.
became the priority, I understand that, so I think,
That's a lot of money to just suddenly appear.
It is. That's why I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. It's certainly probably not going to happen in the next 90 days. But I will go with whatever length of time it is the pleasure of the board. But I also know that Jessica goes through and will bring this back to the board. It will not get lost if we table it indefinitely. If you all are comfortable with something else, 6
Madam
months.
Chair, I really think that if we're gonna table this, we need to table it and find out, I think the legislature
Mhm.
periodically passes legislation for school facilities money, is that correct, Devon?
They do.
And they would do that and the budget sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably need to table this at least 6 months, and that would give us to like August
Mm-hmm.
of next year, or, well,
I
of
will
this year.
say this, Mr. Porter, I talked to Justin this week, and he has some other things he's trying to shoot for in Bamberg. I gave you some information he requested, so I don't think it will happen this year. It may happen in years to come, but he already has his priorities of what he's asking for Bamberg County. He already has that locked in for this year, for facilities money.
Thank you.
Okay, so, you all want to, even if we table it for 6 months, when 6 months hit, if we need to table it for an additional 6 months, we can do that as well, so.
With me giving the update from the feedback we get from the energy assessment.
We still want that information because it could be, I mean, if they're, you've already scheduled for them to come out, they're supposed to be out here tomorrow.
And then I believe they said that we would get, my memory serves me correct, we would get a written report within a couple of weeks
Okay,
following that. So,
okay.
when we get that, I'll be sure to bring that back to the board, to let y'all know.
Okay. Cindy?
I think August, is that 6 months, right? I think, I would appreciate that.
Okay. So, anybody wants to make a motion? I'm willing to entertain that.
Well, since we've learned so much information that is very important for us to know at this time, I believe I would like to make this motion that we table consideration of a facility at the middle school in which to move the 6th grade for at least, the concept of thinking about it for at least 6 months, at least until August.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor that we will table this matter until our August of 2025 meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, the motion carries. And that's where we are on that matter. Okay. So moving down to item number 10, elective course approval. I'll turn that back over to you, Dr. Brown.
Yes, ma'am. So, earlier when school started, we were awaiting some advisement, some further instructions on getting local board approved, elective courses approved annually. So Ms. Moody received that advisement just a week or so ago. So here that we are. So I bring before the board tonight, these are a list of all our currently used local board approved course codes. You have in your packet a description of what each one was. And I need to ask the board to review these course codes and approve them again as local board approved course codes so that our high school guidance counselors, our elementary school counselors can continue to build these courses into their master schedule, as we have been doing. These are not new course codes. These are all course codes we have been previously using in years past and continue to need to continue using.
Okay. Well, board members, you've heard Dr. Brown and had an opportunity to review these elective courses prior to tonight's meeting. As she indicated, these are not anything new. This would just be a matter of being able to continue moving forward with what we're already doing. So I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that we approve the elected courses as designed, A through N, that they continue as is.
Okay. If you could do me a favor with your motion, if you can just mention what they are. You don't have to go through the grade level, but just what A is and what so on.
Sure. Okay, again, I make a motion that we approve the elective courses, A, assigned supervision, B, college and career preparation, 1, C, work experience. D, action-based learning for pre-K, action-based learning for kindergarten, action-based learning for first grade, and the computer learning courses for pre-K through sixth grade.
All right. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it and the motion carries. We are down to item number 11, which is request for out-of-state overnight trips. Dr. Brown?
Yes, ma'am. So tonight, I bring to you the first overnight trip request is for Bamberg Wrestling. If you recall me mentioning earlier that it is possible some of our wrestlers will make the individual state championship round. And if so, they will need to go up the night before and spend the night so that they can wrestle early the next morning. So the first one is for Bamberg Wrestling. The second one is the Pro Start competition that Ms. Hunt, one of our career and technology or CAPE teachers, takes our students to every year. It is the competition being held in Spartanburg Marriott for March the 2nd through March the 4th. She's given you all of the information that goes along with this. If you will notice, there's only a very small number of students expected to attend this. Parent permission slips have gone home, provided they return their permission slips along with a district waiver to be transported in the teacher's vehicle. I'm asking the board to approve that based on those two things.
Okay.
That we get those back. The third one is every year our healthcare students majoring in nursing go to OSA in Charleston, South Carolina. So this is their annual state leadership conference that is part of the curriculum for students taking those courses. Wednesday, March the 5th through Friday, March the 7th. And all of your information is there pertaining to that trip. And that is covered under Perkins funds. And then the last overnight trip request is for two of our career and technology teachers, our computer science and our Ms. Blanche Johnson and Ms. Catrella Anderson, our business and computer science teachers at Bamberg High School to attend their national conference that's required for their program. And again, that's paid for out of CAPE funds, which covers that professional development. So those are the overnight trip requests that I have. You need the board to take action on, please.
Okay, so we have 4 trips.
I'm a little concerned about the teacher dropping, and I understand there would be waivers. You were saying permission.
Yes, we have district waivers that cover that. Yes, ma'am.
Is there extra insurance that could be purchased? Or I don't know what would be necessary.
They would be covered under our insurance should something happen with those waivers being signed.
Okay, fine.
Okay, you've heard what Dr. Brown has outlined, as well as had an opportunity to review these requests. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that we approve the overnight trips. A, the Bamberg Wrestling for individual wrestling championship to Florence, South Carolina, February 21st through the 22nd. B, the Pro Start Management Team Competition in Spartanburg, South Carolina, on March 2nd through the 4th. C, the HOSA State Leadership Conference to Charleston, South Carolina, March 5th through March 7th. And finally, the CT Business Computer Science Teachers, ESCON 2025 in Rosemont, Illinois, June 6th through the 18th.
16 through the 18th? 16 through the 18th. Yeah. All right, motion on the floor and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, the motion carries. We are down to item number 12, which is the first reading of Bamberg County School District Policies, Section E. support services. Dr. Brown?
Okay, so the first, tonight I bring to you for first reading, I think you all started a discussion last month and decided to take all that back up and we'd start over tonight. So the first one that's coming to you is unmanned aircraft systems or drones. It is policy ECAH and ECAHR, it's a mouthful. As you may recall, we have STEM classes now that are beginning to delve in drones. And I just want to allay the board's fears. No drones have been flown this year. All drones have been grounded and have remained grounded, pending we get policies in place and pending the district even get drone insurance, which has to be done through SCISBIT, which Jessica has worked on, and that has occurred. So now I bring to you the drone policies for consideration.
Before you move forward, can you tell us who's a licensed pilot
Yes, ma'am. So part of these policies.
and how high the drones go?
Yes, ma'am. And I have here tonight a
And the
very
difference
special
between
guest,
airspace and land space?
Ms. Charlotte Schlamp, who is, for any questions I'm not able to answer, Ms. Schlamp is. So a lot of the questions I think you guys had last month centered around, well, what does some of these specific policies mean? And you have to keep in mind that board policies don't get down to the nitty-gritty procedural, minute details of everything. They're generalized policies to protect the district, but one of the requirements in our policies is any drone that is flown in this district has to be supervised by FAA pilot, certified licensed pilot, which Ms. Lamp is. We have 3 of those individuals in our district. If you are not a certified FAA pilot, you don't get to fly drones. So want to make that clear to everyone.
Okay.
Under their FAA licenses, they have specific procedures they have to follow when it comes to the day and the time when they want to fly the drones. That covers notifying the appropriate people in and around the community where necessary and adhering to their rules. So our policies give you a basic outline, talks about implementation. Indoor flying of drones is prohibited. So all the things. So I'll ask Ms. Schlamp now to answer any other questions you may have. I think one of the questions that came up last month was 5 miles from an airport. You have to understand that's airspace, not miles like
Land
road
miles.
miles, linear miles. So that's a completely different requirement. But also, our airports are not towered airports, okay? That makes a difference, huge difference. So, board members, any other questions you may have about these policies that you had last month or since last month that Ms. Lamp can answer for you now?
Mrs.
The helipad.
The helipad at Bamberg Earhart High School, it is in the area, however, it is not in the same airspace. Because it is an unmanned area, all of us have the VF radios that we can contact and we let them know. There's apps that we use on our phone that says, hey, we're gonna put a drone. No drone for a school system should go up more than 200 feet. So in that case, we wouldn't even be in the airspace of the helipad. Depending on which location that the helicopter's coming, the football field and the other one is not out where the parking lot is for the school is not in the direction that a helicopter would land for Bamberg Earhart at that helipad. It is not in one of the restricted airspaces. And we have air maps that we can look at that lets you know all that, but none of the schools are directly interfering.
Could you please tell me, are students ever allowed to fly the drones since they don't have a license?
Students underneath the age of 16 cannot ever control the actual control. If students are over 16, if a pilot would like to give them control, the pilot has to be able to take that control out of the hand of the student. Underneath the policy, we have it written that no students will ever man the controls. It will only be the FAA pilot.
Okay, I am sorry, I did not really see where it said no students.
It is in there somewhere where students would not man it.
Was the one listed R or no?
All drones would be operated in outdoor areas by the district, shall only be flown by licensed FAA pilots. It's D,
G on the picture.
For second page.
It's on the ECAH, second page, letter
Letter
number
D,
D,
letter
the
D.
second paragraph
Okay,
down.
that's fine, okay, thank you.
now 16-year-olds, if they choose to go out and get their own, that's on them, but it does not affect the school. We would never, they would not, they can recreationally fly it, but they cannot commercially fly it.
Any other questions? Well, we appreciate you coming and being on hand because we did have some interesting conversation last month, so much so that we needed to table it, but we appreciate it very much for you to come in.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
The next set? Okay, so the next set is district-owned vehicles. So we have been waiting to hear back from our district attorneys for several months, and also SCASBA on recommended policies for district-owned vehicles. As you know, as a consolidated district, our policies are ever evolving and growing. The manual you get is 4 inches now, it's gonna be 6 inches thick, probably next year this time, because we're constantly having to add to it. So these are policies now that pertain to district-owned vehicles and the requirements for operating those vehicles, registration and insurance, the driving qualifications, the drug testing if you're involved in an accident, not partaking of alcohol while driving such vehicles, transporting passengers in such vehicles. It aligns with state laws about the use of seatbelts, and individuals accruing tickets and fines. If you're issued a citation while you're driving a district-owned vehicle, you have to report it to your supervisor immediately, no later than 24 hours after the citation's issued. So it includes all the details about operating district-owned vehicles. Okay. And that concludes the section for first reading on section E. Do you want me to keep going to the next item number 13, or you want action on those two?
Can I just make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not an attorney, and so there's probably a reason that it's phrased as a double negative. This is sort of just but in no case, no later than 24 hours. Seems a little confusing to me, I don't know.
It is a double negative.
Okay,
We can easily, Jessica can make that correction if y'all agree to pass it with such correction be made.
just along, again, I'm not an attorney, but reading it seems like it could be a little confusing just because of the double negative. And it's used probably 4 or 5 times in the public district and policy.
It just needs to read no later than.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, just.
In all of those. Take out the in no case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, excuse me, while we're on that same one, am I correct in understanding if anybody is driving their own car or a school car, and they have an accident for which punishment includes suspension or revocation of the license, that is what has to be reported to the school within 24 hours?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Okay. I'm just saying, if you're driving your own car.
This doesn't pertain to your own.
Yeah, this is district-owned vehicles.
Okay, no, it says any person who is arrested for or charged with a motor vehicle offense which punishment includes.
I'm sorry, go ahead, you're right, yes.
Okay, suspension or revocation of driver's license, whether in his or her personal vehicle or district-owned vehicle, must immediately notify their supervisor or district's human resource specialist immediately when practicable. So if I really screw up and they take my license back, I have to call
Yes.
you guys and say.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I didn't, that is true. Our attorneys advised that that policy pertains to whether it's so severe enough that whether you're driving your personal or a district-owned, and the reason being is, you might be driving your personal car, but when you come to work, you are to operate a district-owned vehicle or a piece of equipment, but you haven't told us you've lost your license, that's an issue.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that.
Yes, ma'am,
And I
you're
think our
correct.
personnel needs to know that that's one thing.
Yeah,
that we do.
that one
But really, they
circumstance.
have to be as
Yes,
not
ma'am.
reps.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Um, We need to make a motion.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
May I please make a motion that we vote on these new policies for ECAH, ECAHR, EEDA, and EEDAR, first reading.
That's with the correction of no later than? All right. The correction of no later than, there was, yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Okay.
Motion on the floor and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, the motion carries on that section. We'll go down to item number 13, which is the first reading of policy section I, which is instruction, IKD-R, honor rolls, and IKE.
Okay, so in our current board policies, it was said in there that the board shall develop policies specific to honor rolls, but specifically to valedictorian, salutatorian, and selection procedures. So we've got a committee together made up of the principals, Mr. Arm, myself, Ms. Moody. We spent some time combining Bamberg School District 2 and Bamberg School District 1's policies. Again, this is being born out of our combining, and now that we've gotten into the consolidation, seeing where things differed in our practices, procedures, and policies, and seeing where they were similar, and coming up to combine policies. We submitted our drafts to SCASBA and for legal advisement, got them back, so tonight I bring to you as a consensus of all that, draft policies to propose to the board regarding valedictorian, salutatorian, and selection procedures, early graduate procedures, class rank procedures, and then IKE, which goes behind that, falls right in line with that, is promotion, retention of acceleration of students. Excuse me, let me hold IKE for a second, because this is a little different than IKDR. IKDR is to go with our current existing policy, IKD. Current existing policy, IKD, did talk about honor rolls. It didn't have the specifics for valedictorian, salutatorian. Adding the R with IKD adds the specific policy for that.
Okay.
We had this in our high school handbooks, just as was it in our board policy manual. This will get it adopted over into the board policy manual.
Okay. All right, board members, you've had an opportunity to actually receive and review this information. What's the pleasure of the board with regards to first reading of these policies?
A question, maybe me, but,
Hold on just a second. Do you guys want to vote on this and then ask your question?
okay, all right.
Are we voting on both policies or just the one that you've talked about so far?
Just the
Just the
IKDR,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
I make a motion that we proceed to vote to accept IKDR as a policy on its first reading.
All right. Motion on the floor
Second.
and a second. Discussion?
Yeah, it says students must achieve a minimum grade of 60 in order to be promoted. I don't know what the policy is now, but at one time, we were told we could not give any student a grade lower than 60. I don't know if that's still, so I was wondering, if a child has a 45 and we had to give them a 60.
High school students get what they earn. First quarter, they might not give below a 60. I don't even know that we still do that, Ms. Coker, because it's not the same. I think what you're talking about is on the report cards. You might be getting that confused with what we used to do with some elementary students. because we want to give them a chance to recoup and not fail for the year right out of the gate. However, at the high school, to be promoted, I think where you're seeing that here, to be promoted to grade 12 or to grade 11, that's different.
So that falls under the
You're looking at
IKE.
IK, yeah, we'll talk about that next.
We'll talk about that in a moment,
Oh,
so
okay, I'm sorry.
that's okay. Any other discussion on IKD-R? All right, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it on that particular policy. Now we can talk about the IKE. And what you were talking about. Let's go.
Okay, so on IKE, it's a little different. It's an existing policy, but we found an error in the policy. I didn't find it, the high school principals and the guidance counselors found it, and good for them, because it was a good catch. If you will look at page 2 of the policy, under promotion criteria for grade 9 through 12. Does everybody see that? The first bullet. What they're asking to be corrected is that this does not read promotion from grade 11 to grade 12, a total of 16 credits. Is that what it was?
It was 17.
It was 17 previously. They wanted to read 16, because it's 17, you should be promoted. It's always been 16, so it was I think it was a typographical error in the first draft of the policy. However, there needs to be a period at the end of the word credit, and the rest of that sentence needs to be struck. Because there are students that are planning on graduating early, they double up and take English 3 and 4 while they're a senior, or Algebra 2 and Calculus while they're a senior. And that's always been allowable. So they're asking that we stop that sentence at a total of 16 units of credit, period, and strike the rest.
Okay.
So it's not first reading of policy, it's first reading of a correction to an existing policy.
Okay. All right.
And then it goes on to include all of those in the next bullet. So it clarifies that those courses are still required, just not within those 16 necessarily.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, what's the pleasure of the board with regards to this revision?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that we approve the first reading of policy IKE with the correction
Okay.
as it's been presented.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, the motion carries. We're down to item number 14, which is the annual Title I review.
So, and I apologize, Dr. Ray was unable to be here tonight due to an appointment that she had, so I'm presenting this on her behalf. But the annual Title I review is in accordance with Title I requirements. Policy KB, which is Parent and Family Engagement and Education, is subject to annual review by the school board. And as part of this process, Dr. Ray instructed all the principals and the technology department to ensure that the policy was posted on both the school and district websites. And she provided parents with an opportunity to offer input on the current policy. Policy was made available on January 17th. It had an original deadline date to give feedback for January 23rd, but after the week of bad weather, it was brought to our attention perhaps that needed to be extended, which it was, to midday to date. Dr. Riggs confirmed that she did receive recommendations for policy. She received input and recommendations for a couple of changes on the policy. And there was 2 specific changes to the policy that were recommended by the persons that provided input. And the rest of the input from what she and Ms. Overstreet, Ms. Moody, Mr. Ulmer, and myself gleaned from reading all the input today was a lot of the input were general questions relative to the policy, asking for clarification or definitions or other information. And so Dr. Ray wants to put together a Q&A document to list and address all of the specific questions that she got from the input, and she will be responding to those individuals, as well as making those publicly available, hopefully within the next week or so. But the two specific recommendations for changes to the policies are these. So if you'll get KB in front of you, I think Jessica was kind enough to highlight the recommendations for changes in yellow. The first one appears on page 1 of policy KB. It's the third bullet in the middle of the page. One parent recommended changing the wording from establishing effective two-way communications to reading establishing district-wide effective two-way communications between all parents and families in schools. I think the intent there is for the district to, encouraging the district to look at possibly a single method to, for all of our schools to communicate directly with parents. And Ricky Paget is looking into that, but she did suggest the wording change to establishing district-wide, inserting that word district-wide. Okay? The second recommended change from parental input appears on the very last page of this policy, and this is correct. Beginning with students in the 6th grade, it talks specifically about IGPs. That does not occur until grade 8, so that does need to be corrected to 8th grade. So I am bringing those two recommendations to the board for your consideration and or your decisions about those recommendations.
Okay, so, I guess maybe I'm missing something, but what you handed out is the same as this?
It is, I just highlighted.
You just highlighted what the portion that they want to.
Change them.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I got
That's
you.
y'all's decision whether or not to change it or not.
Okay.
So Dr. Brown was just gonna bring y'all what the recommendations were.
Okay. So establishing district-wide on the first page and then changing the 6 to the 8.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I just have a question. I don't know if you can answer this, or Dr. Ray, or if you can direct this policy, but just looking under the responsibilities of the board, and it talks about national organizations that promote and provide technical assistance on various parent and family engagement frameworks and models. Do you recommend any particular organizations that could do that?
I do not have any recommendations. We follow the South Carolina State Department of Education's framework for parent engagement, and they have a list of recommendations in that framework. If you were to go to the State Department website and pull those down, some national organizations, I've looked at them. I can't tell you that one's better than the other one. I mean, so I can't sit here and make specific recommendations.
I think there's an organization called, I might have it wrong, but I think there's like a national organization, like Parent Engagement Clearinghouse. It used to be, and it could very well be on your website. It used to be a Title I requirement that you had a link on your website to that particular clearinghouse. And I think what that policy is referring to is that requirement.
Covers under Title I.
Yeah.
And I will say too, this policy is layered in with Title I requirements. So lots of things required in Title I is also here, but this is also embedded, Mr. Porter's absolutely correct, in all the Title I requirements as well.
How many Title I schools do we have, Title I?
All of them,
All of them, and they all receive an allocation?
yes, sir. And that changes year to year.
Right. Well, it depends on
Yeah,
like
based on-
10% now.
Correct. So, but right currently, yes, sir.
Okay, so at this point, you're asking for correction to this policy, to add district-wide and change the 6 to the 8. Okay. All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Excuse me.
Yes.
May I please, on the part that Ms. Jenny was asking about, does that mean the board as a body would join this association, or each board member would join an association? It says the board will do the following: consider joining national organizations that promote and provide technical assistance. I don't know if the whole board can join, so.
It could be the district as an entity. We can check on that.
The district.
And it's consider, that's a key word.
Right, but, and then there are quite a few things that we're supposed to do this, the superintendent's supposed to do, I mean, that's a lot of checking up. But I think there's really good intent here.
Okay, so what's in front of us is, for right now, is the correction that needs to be made on page 1 and on page 4 of the policy. So what's the pleasure of the board with regards to those corrections?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I offer a motion that we accept policy KB, parent and family engagement and education, with the corrections that was presented.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, motion carries. We're down to item number 15, which is the monthly financial report, and I'll turn that over to Ms. Starr.
Good evening. You have in your packet the financial report. I've already had some questions, and I will look into those questions, but if anybody else has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay. So board members, you've had an opportunity to receive and review the monthly financial report. What's the pleasure of the board?
I have just a couple of questions. I had mentioned it earlier when we were discussing the previous item. When does the school budget goes, the fiscal year for the school, it corresponds with the school year, so it's a July to June fiscal year?
It is.
Okay. And then the budget is reviewed basically in June or July?
So we will start, the legislators just went back into session, so
Okay.
things are starting.
Okay.
So we first start with our principals, we meet with them, and then once we meet with them, then we start the budget, and then we set up a work session with the board, so that they have input as well on the budget.
Okay.
And then we pass the budget, we need to pass the budget at our June meeting, so we have a budget to work off of as of July 1st.
Okay.
If the state has not passed a budget by June 30th, then we will pass a continuing resolution to operate off our current budget until the state passes a budget, then which we will, and we'll pass our budget at that point.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that we approve the finance budget as presented.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, the motion carries. And we are down to item number 16, which is board member requests.
So we have received we actually received 2 board member requests this month. However, 1 board member rescinded her request, which left us with a request from Ms. Tanya Sanders-Govan. She was requesting 2 years' worth of demographic information on students, and as I understand it, for her District 5 students. So I'm bringing her request tonight to the board for your consideration, discussion, and decision.
Okay. Let's open up the floor to Ms. Govan, if she can express to the board the purpose of the request.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My intentions for this, first of all, I may not have asked it correctly or presented it correctly, so I do apologize for that. But I just wanted to get information on the students that were in my district as far as number-wise, not their names, but just for number-wise, as how many students were in each of the schools in the grade levels. It was for number-wise.
Okay, so, for you to make that type of request, I mean, it's a situation where you have to be acting in the official capacity as a board member. And then you have 8 other board members that are along with you. So it's not a situation where you can just request information like that and then do, I don't know what your intent is to do with the information. But whatever is going to be done has to be done collectively as a board. It's not an isolated situation where just you can get District 5 and you do what you're going to do with it, even if it's just to review it. It has to be something that's going on with the board. And so, in addition to that, we have to take into consideration the man hours that it's going to require in order for district employees to stop what they're doing and produce this information. And then once it's produced, again, the question comes up, what is the board going to do with it? You have to have a purpose, and there has to be a reason, and you have to be acting in the official capacity as a board member, and it has to be all of us.
Well, I will send that information. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So we will move, well, for the record, you have that she's rescinding her request. We'll move down to item number 17, which is visitors' comments. And I do not see that anyone signed up for visitors' comments, so we will move down to item number 18, which is executive session. What's the pleasure of the board with regards to going into executive session?
Madam Chair, at this time, I move that we go into executive session to discuss A, employment personnel recommendations for hire, for 1, and 2, personnel recommendations for resignation, and B, discussion of release of students.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor of moving into executive session, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the motion carries. The board will move out of open session and go into executive session to discuss employment personnel, personnel recommendations for hire, personnel recommendations for resignation, as well as discussion of release of students. We will now move into executive session. Okay, board members, I will entertain a motion to come out of executive session and go back into open session.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
at this time, I make a motion that we come out of executive session and move back into open session.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor of moving out of executive session back into open session, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it. Motion carries. We are now back into open session. What is the pleasure of the board with regards to executive session items?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the personnel recommendation for resignation for employees A, B, and C.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it and the motion carries. And with regards to personnel recommendations for resignation, retirement, letter A, tonight Bamberg County School District Superintendent Dr. Dottie Brown formally advised the Bamberg County School Board of Trustees of her decision to retire as the District Superintendent of Schools effective at the close of business on June 30th, 2025. The board accepts Dr. Brown's resignation with a heartfelt thanks for her leadership, her professionalism, and dedication to our students and our community. Dr. Brown has served nearly newly consolidated districts since Bamberg District 1 and 2 were combined 3 years ago. The board will use the next few months to prepare and conduct a search for our next superintendent. We ask the Bamberg County School District community to support our efforts as we enter this period of transition. The board plans to provide additional information in the upcoming weeks. All right. We are now down to item number 20, which is to adjourn this meeting. What's the pleasure of the board?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
We have a motion on the floor to adjourn the meeting. What's the pleasure of the, I'm sorry, a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Please signal by saying aye. Aye. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.